Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into something pretty major today.
Yeah, this executive order kicking in tomorrow, May 12th.
Exactly. It's aiming for really significant cuts in U.S. prescription drug prices. We're talking 30%, maybe even 80%.
That's the target range, yes.
Yes.
Using this most favored nation policy idea.
So our mission today for you listening is to kind of unpack what's behind this move, trying to get a handle on these potential changes towards fairer healthcare costs.
And a really interesting lens for this is Marcia Angell's book, The Truth About the Drug Companies.
Right, the one Robert F. Kennedy Jr. recommended. It feels, very timely right now given this policy shift.
It really does. Her arguments connect directly to what this order is trying to achieve.
And this isn't just about, the cost of pills. It touches on bigger economic stuff, societal trends, too. So, okay, let's get into Angel's book. What's the core idea there?
Well, her central argument, and it's quite provocative, is that the pharmaceutical industry inflates drug prices. She contends they significantly overstate their actual research and development costs.
Overstate them. How so?
She argues that a much larger chunk of their spending actually goes towards marketing, promotion, and administrative overhead, not just pure R&D.
Okay, so more on selling the drug than discovering it, in some ways.
That's a key part of her claim, yeah. She provides examples where marketing budgets seem to dwarf the initial research investment.
And that ties into the whole issue of why we pay so much more here in the U.S., right? Compared to other places.
Precisely. Angel's research highlighted that U.S. drug prices were, on average, something like 2.8 times higher than in other comparable developed countries.
Wow, nearly 3 times higher.
Yeah. And this most favored nation policy is a direct attempt to tackle that disparity. Essentially, it says the U.S. shouldn't pay significantly more than what other wealthy nations pay for the same drugs.
So that 30 to 80% reduction target, that's aimed squarely at closing that gap.
Exactly. It's meant to bring U.S. prices more in line with the international average, specifically those of other developed nations.
So if this actually works, if they hit those targets, what's the real-world impact look like?
The potential impact is, well, huge. Trillions of dollars in savings over the long term, potentially.
Trillions.
That's the scale we could be talking about. For individuals, it means lower copays, reduced insurance premiums maybe, making essential medicines genuinely accessible.
You can imagine families maybe not having to make those really tough choices between medicine and, groceries.
That's the hope. Significant relief for household budgets.
But it can't be that simple, surely. What are the catches, the potential problems?
Yeah, that's a fair question. There are definitely complexities. One concern you hear is that it might push prices up in other countries as companies try to recoup costs globally.
Ah, okay. Sort of a leveling effect, but maybe not downwards everywhere.
Potentially. And, of course, you absolutely expect major pushback from the pharmaceutical industry itself. That's almost a given.
And are we seeing that already? You mentioned online discussions.
Yeah, if you look at platforms like X, you can definitely see the debate heating up. Industry groups, patient advocates, economists, everyone's weighing in on the potential consequences, good and bad.
Which sort of brings us back to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. highlighting Angel's book. How does his endorsement fit into this 2025 context?
Well, Kennedy recommending her work basically amplifies that critical perspective on pharma pricing. By pointing to her analysis, he adds weight to the argument that prices are unfairly high and that the industry's justifications need scrutiny.
So it helps frame the why behind this executive order now.
Exactly. His advocacy contributes to the public conversation, the pressure for affordability, which is the backdrop for this policy finally being implemented.
Can we just make it concrete for a second? Quick example. Someone in 2025, what could this mean for them personally?
Sure. Imagine someone paying, say, $100 a month out of pocket for a vital medication. If this policy leads to even a 50% price drop, which is right in the middle of that target range, the difference to their monthly budget, their stress levels, it can be life-changing.
Yeah, that really hits home. It connects directly back to what Angel was writing about, that idea of fairness in pricing.
Absolutely. It's about aligning the cost more closely with, well, what seems reasonable compared to other places, and perhaps the actual costs involved.
And you mentioned the global price equalization debates online, too. That's part of this whole picture.
Definitely. The discussion on X and elsewhere touches on whether this U.S. move will force a global reckoning on drug prices. Lots of different angles being debated.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what are the main things for you, the key takeaways from this deep dive?
I think the biggest thing is that this executive order, alongside the arguments you see in books like Angel's, really forces us to ask some hard questions. Questions about transparency, about what's fair when it comes to pricing life-saving medicines.
Right. It's pushing those questions right into the spotlight.
Exactly.
So, final thought for you listening.
Hmm.
We've got this potential for massive savings, maybe real relief for people, but also this guaranteed industry fight back and global ripples. As this all starts to unfold, what's the single most important factor you think we should all be keeping an eye on?